I respectfully want to welcome Professor Sam Amadi, who is a distinguished professor in Nigeria. My boss, Mr. Mike, for a proper introduction, managing editor of SID Media Solutions. The topic, like I said earlier, is I sent it to both parties, is basically digital risk of online life of youth. There's a broad discussion around, what the kind of threats and the kind of, harmful discourse before now that is tied around, digital activities for youth in particular. But our focus will be basically on privacy and data security, cyberbullying and online harassment, and exposure to harmful content. This is what we'll be focusing on. I would leave the floor open to Mr. Simon. Around privacy and data security, what would you say is the major thing that could be, tied to digital online risk for these youths in terms of privacy and data security?
Well, I think the key thing is they don't know what they're giving away. They sign up to TikTok, they sign up to Snapchat, they give their location, where they are, what they're doing. They freely give away lots of data and private security, which is quite dangerous. So I think there probably needs to be a discussion about greater e-learning in schools from a high school age, I think. We certainly sat down with our son and warned him against the dangers of just getting an app and signing up to it and giving away your email address, your phone number. It just leads to all sorts of problems because our son is 16. He had his phone to go to high school, but he's obviously, because once you give that information away, you're open to scammers, you're open to a lot of bad people. There's a lot of bad people in the world that are doing a lot of bad things. And then from a wider point of view, even from a mobile phone point of view, they make these apps so that they're kind of addictive, so that kids can't engage in lessons. They're always on there. We have to try and prize our phone off kids and even students at universities, not just youths. I do a lot of talks at universities, and I encourage everyone to turn their phones off because they're just not truly engaged, because the mobile phones are, with Snapchat and Instagram and TikTok, it's just never ending. It's made to be never ending. And these companies know what they're doing. They get the information off you, and advertisers, you freely give your information to advertisers, and they use it. They sell that information to other advertisers. So it's quite a murky world, really. So data and data security is really, really hot, and I think it should be taught in lessons at high school. They should be taught the importance of just not giving it away so easily.
Thank you very much. We're having a conversation, actually. So, Prof, over to you. What strategies do you think we can actually use to curb, youth from to protect their online privacy and data security?
Well, I think, like you said, the risks are twofold. One is a risk that these platforms are accessing information maybe they couldn't have accessed, especially using algorithm. Also, because of the profile they obtain through use of their platform, they are able to design maybe products, data products that might not be appropriate for different consuming public, maybe young persons, that they could predate, like a predatory act. They can use those information they get as to test things they like, things they want to do, use them to design very intrusive and maybe products, data products that ordinarily are not appropriate. And that's part of why, apart from the risk of espionage and some other exploiting classified information about people harvesting information that could for commercial purposes without consent. So apart from that, the risk that they're also able to design data products that could influence people or be able to get people to consume what they don't want to consume because they use those data to design and understand how you feel and weaknesses and manipulate. The other risk is also that countries, in terms of sovereignty, can see a geopolitical component to it. Many of these digital platforms originate from the West, advanced countries, China, the US, Europe. And some countries feel nervous as to how much this could compromise national security because in the age of information, it's also the age of, we're seeing information warfare more pronounced, we're seeing espionage becoming part of deliberate state policy in terms of national security.
What then will be the role of the media? I mean, there has to be a way we can curb this. This is a very serious topic. What impact can the media do? What can they, begin to do to help curb the whole of this, however small?
Well, the media now, social media is as intertwined in the media. It's very hard to watch any broadcaster now. It feels like every broadcaster has some sort of agenda. I live here in the UK, and the BBC is supposed to be put up on this this pedestal, but they use a lot of broadcasters and freelance broadcasters who have controversial views. Perfect example is Gary Lineker. He's not an employee of the BBC. He's a freelancer. So I think it's so tricky because it's hard to find any true news channel these days that hasn't got some form of agenda. They might say that they're completely unbiased, but I find it really hard to kind of. The BBC is probably here in the UK. It's the closest you could get. But yeah, they report on it, but it's kind of done with they know that they're doing it because they're going to be able to clip it up and put it on their own social media channel.
That's an interesting submission. Over to you, Prof. The craze around using phones right now, the whole world is becoming more integrated, and I don't know what will happen in the next 10 years. Maybe we'll now have an AI phone, that will be doing a lot of things. Harmful content, there's a whole lot of productions happening every day, and this content, I don't know, not regulated. You talking from the perspective of a parent and someone who is a policymaker, how do we begin to, what advice would you give to parents? What kind of policies do you think should be enacted to help address a lot of those digital, issues that we're having propping up every day?
Moving from what Simon said about the media, in a divided, degraded society, the media will reflect that state of affair. And again, the social media, because of its nature, the medium itself, is kind of democratized, quote unquote, access. So today we talk about citizen journalism. I think it's more exemplified in maybe the negative sense in social media, where people create content themselves, broadcast those contents, and maybe the nastier, the more because more hollow those contents, the more traction they get. They click bites and all that. So there's now an increased risk that this medium could kind of become access to, or it's basically, apart from the moralizing in terms of morality, but also in terms of capacity for reasoning, in terms of affecting decision making, and how also civic action. Right? Democracy is built around some sense of civic. People belong to a community defined by some fundamental form of rationality, but the excess, relativism, excess way in which people project irrational, maybe senseless context and reasonings and propositions and decisions and conclusions will be dangerous for the Commonwealth. So there are two levels of risk here. One is the private and the public. And the private, I think it's important first that parents themselves reassess the virtue of the social media, digital platforms, in the sense that just like, in physical space, cyberspace, digital space, are basically space. They don't have inherent redeeming value. So what people put in, the content people pass through those space, whether physical interactions or digital interactions, should be carefully assessed. The extra danger is social media, and going back to the famous, the medium is a message. The social media by its nature kind of carries additional subtlety and additional power and influence that normal tracking, if it's print media, normal way of control will be less effective. So it means that we need to ramp up more vigilance, and it gets back to family and parents and those who exercise guardianship over younger people. So let's start with that. There should be more quality control in terms of trying to assess, kind of classify, and now rating. Rate some content, some programs like TikTok could be more dangerous than WhatsApp, than Twitter or X, and so on and so forth. So we classify. Parents have to, risk analysis and risk classification.
Thank you for that philosophic view. I'm so excited about the views that both guests have shared. All right, Mr. Simon, thank you so very much. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Bye.